There comes a moment in every woman's life when the silence left behind by someone she once loved feels louder than any words he could have spoken. It's in that silence she realizes the truth, not about him, but about herself. Today, I want to take you into those moments. 10 painful realizations. 10 truths women often face when the person they loved walks away. These are not just heartbreak lessons. These are human lessons. I want you to imagine this. She's sitting on the edge of her bed, holding a coffee cup, staring into space. The relationship is over. The texts have stopped. The laughter is gone. The space beside her is empty. And that's when it begins, not the heartbreak that came earlier. What begins now are the realizations, the truths that come like waves, painful but transforming. Let me share 6 of those realizations, the kind that crack us open but also set us free. When we fall in love, especially deeply, we often weave this quiet little promise to ourselves that says, this is it. This is forever. It feels so real, so undeniable, that we can almost see the future as if it's already written. We picture the dinners, the vacations, the laughter echoing through the years, maybe even growing old together, sitting side by side on a porch with wrinkled hands still entwined. That's the dream, the illusion of forever. And when that forever breaks, when the person we thought would stay suddenly leaves, it is like watching a glass shatter in slow motion. Every piece of that imagined future lies at our feet, sharp and impossible to piece back together. But here's the truth most of us forget: forever is not a guarantee that someone else can give us. It's not a contract written in stone. Forever is fragile because it depends on choices, on circumstances, on 2 hearts staying in rhythm. And the painful part is, sometimes hearts fall out of rhythm. Sometimes people leave. And when they do, we're forced to confront the painful realization that the forever we believed in was not as certain as we thought. Think about it like this. Imagine building a house, brick by brick, with someone you love. You paint the walls, you decorate the rooms, you fill it with dreams. Then, one day, that person quietly walks out and takes the keys with them. You're left standing in the doorway of a house you built for 2, realizing you're the only one left inside. The walls are still standing, the dreams are still there, but the other half of that vision is gone. That's what happens when the illusion of forever breaks. It's not just about losing a person, it's about losing the picture of the future you held in your heart. And yet, this breaking, as brutal as it feels, teaches us one of the most powerful lessons in life. It teaches us that forever was never supposed to be something we borrowed from someone else. It was never meant to rest in another person's hands. The real forever is the one we create with ourselves, the promises we make to honor who we are, to cherish our growth, to never abandon ourselves, no matter who stays or who leaves. Let me give you a daily life example. Think of a young woman who once built her entire identity around her relationship. She dreamed of a wedding, of children, of growing old together. Every plan, every decision revolved around him. When he left, it felt like her whole world had collapsed. But over time, she realized something incredible. Her life didn't end with his departure. She went back to school, pursued a career she had once abandoned, reconnected with her friends, and discovered a strength she never knew she had. What she thought was the end of forever was really the beginning of her own. She learned that she was her own forever. The illusion of forever breaking feels cruel, almost unbearable, because it forces us to grieve not just a person, but the story we wrote in our minds. Yet when the dust settles, there is a gift hidden in that pain. It strips us of false security and makes us ask ourselves, what is my forever? What do I stand for, even if everyone else walks away? That's where the transformation happens. We live in a world that tells us forever means finding someone who never leaves. But maybe the real forever is finding a self that never abandons you. Maybe forever is learning how to be at peace with your own company, how to build a life so rich and meaningful that anyone who comes in only adds to it, not defines it. That's the forever no one can take away. I think of it like a tree. Relationships can be like branches. They grow, they blossom. Sometimes they break off in storms. But your roots, your core, your grounding, that's yours. When someone leaves, it feels like the whole tree is falling apart. But in time, you realize the roots are still there. You are still standing, and new branches can grow. The breaking of forever doesn't end the tree, it strengthens its resilience. Yes, it hurts. It hurts more than words can describe when the forever you imagined is ripped away. It feels like betrayal, like emptiness, like a cruel joke life played on you. But pain is also a teacher. Pain says, "No, you will learn that your strength was never in the promise of someone else. It was always inside you." So when the illusion of forever breaks, let it. Let the pieces fall. Cry, grieve, rage if you must. But then slowly pick up the sharp fragments, not to rebuild the same picture, but to create something new. Something that reflects who you are now, not who you were when you thought you needed someone else to complete your forever. And maybe the most liberating part of all is this: when you stop chasing forever in someone else, you begin to live fully in the present. You stop waiting for a promise and start embracing the moment. You laugh louder, you love deeper, you live braver, because you know that forever is not a guarantee, but today is a gift. And in choosing yourself and standing tall, even when someone walks away, you discover a forever stronger, deeper, and more unshakable than any promise someone else could ever give you. That is the beauty of the illusion breaking. It hurts, yes. But it also reveals the one truth that sets us free. Forever is not about who stays. Forever is about who you become. When a relationship ends, one of the first and most painful thoughts that rushes into a woman's heart is, "I wasn't enough. Not pretty enough, not smart enough, not exciting enough, not worthy enough." She replays every conversation, every argument, every silent evening, searching for the moment where she failed. She wonders if she laughed too loud, loved too deeply, or cared too much. And in those quiet, lonely hours, she begins to measure herself through the eyes of the one who left. But here's the truth: her value was never in his eyes to begin with. Think about how much weight we place on how another person sees us. We stand in front of the mirror, and instead of asking, "Do I love what I see?" we ask, "Would he love what he sees?" That's how dangerous it is to tie our worth to someone else's perception. Because when that person walks away, it feels like our entire identity collapses. But the painful realization, the one that both stings and frees us, is that our value was never meant to be defined by another human being. Let me give you an example. Imagine a woman who always went the extra mile in her relationship. She cooked his favorite meals, dressed the way he liked, even silenced parts of her own dreams to make space for his. She thought that if she just poured enough love into him, if she just became what he needed, he would see her worth and never leave. But one day, he did leave. And in that emptiness, she asked herself the heartbreaking question, "If I gave everything and it still wasn't enough, what does that make me?" The answer, though, was hidden in plain sight. It makes her human. It makes her someone who loved bravely, but it does not make her worthless. The mistake wasn't in her love. It was in placing her crown in someone else's hands, expecting him to recognize its beauty. Because the truth is, some people will never see your worth, no matter how brightly you shine, and some people will leave even when you give them your whole heart. That is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their capacity to receive it. Let's put it into daily life perspective. Picture a diamond. Whether someone recognizes its brilliance or tosses it aside thinking it's just a rock, its worth does not change. It remains rare, strong, and priceless. Now imagine if that diamond started questioning its value every time someone walked by without noticing it. Ridiculous, right? Yet, that's exactly what many women do when they tie their value to the way a man sees them. They forget they are the diamond. This realization is painful because it forces a woman to confront how much of herself she gave away trying to be seen. She remembers the nights she dressed up hoping he would notice, the conversations she started just to feel important, the sacrifices she made so he would stay. And when he leaves, she's left holding all those efforts like receipts, wondering why they weren't enough. But here's the revelation: her value was never a transaction. It was never something to be earned or validated. It always lived within her, waiting for her to claim it. I once heard a story of a woman who, after her divorce, began traveling alone. She had spent years seeking validation from her husband, who rarely gave it. But when she started exploring new places, trying new things, and making decisions for herself, she realized something powerful. She didn't need his eyes to feel alive. She could see herself clearly for the first time, and in her own eyes, she was more than enough. That's the shift, the moment she stopped chasing value in someone else's perception and started living in her own truth. This realization transforms the way a woman sees her past. She begins to understand that she was never unworthy. She was simply measured by the wrong scale. His inability to see her brilliance doesn't diminish it. His leaving doesn't erase her essence. If anything, it proves that her value is not fragile enough to be defined by another person's choice. And once this truth sinks in, something remarkable happens. She begins to reclaim the parts of herself she abandoned. She paints again, writes again, dreams again, laughs without apology. She wears the dress she loves. Even if he once said it wasn't flattering, she starts living for herself, not for approval. And that, right there, is liberation. Yes, it hurts to realize that the one you loved couldn't see you fully. It cuts deep to think that your efforts, your sacrifices, your devotion weren't cherished. But in that very pain lies the lesson: your value is not dependent on recognition. The sun doesn't stop shining because someone closes their blinds. It shines anyway, and so do you. So when a woman finally whispers to herself, "My value was never in his eyes," she steps into a new kind of power. She no longer begs to be chosen. She no longer shrinks herself for approval. She no longer waits for validation to feel whole. Instead, she looks in the mirror, really looks, and realizes, I was the treasure all along. And that truth, that unshakable, untouchable truth, is the beginning of her freedom. Loneliness is one of the most uncomfortable emotions a human being can feel. It has a way of creeping into the quietest hours, when the world has slowed down and distractions have faded. After someone leaves your life, loneliness doesn't just tap gently at your shoulder. It sits beside you, heavy and uninvited, and whispers questions that pierce your heart. Why me? What did I do wrong? Will I ever be enough for anyone? For many women, this moment feels like the hardest part of being left, not the goodbye itself, but the silence that follows. Yet hidden inside this silence is one of life's most profound teachers. Loneliness is not just a void, it is a classroom, and though its lessons are painful, they can transform everything. At first, loneliness feels unbearable. You walk into a room that used to hold laughter, and now it echoes with emptiness. You wake up reaching for someone who is no longer there. You eat meals with no one across the table. The world seems to have shifted from color to black and white. But the truth about loneliness is that it strips away the noise of life, leaving you face to face with yourself. And that's where its teaching begins. Think about this. Most of us spend our lives filling our calendars, scrolling our phones, surrounding ourselves with company, not always because we want to, but because we are afraid of what we might hear in the silence. Loneliness removes the noise and leaves only the raw sound of your own soul. And while that may feel terrifying, it is also one of the most honest experiences you can ever have. I once knew a woman who had always been surrounded by people, family, friends, a partner who kept her busy with his needs. She never sat in silence, but when he left, she was forced into evenings alone. At first, she hated it. She cried into her pillow, watched endless television, anything to drown out the quiet. But over time, something shifted. She began journaling her thoughts, taking long walks, rediscovering old hobbies. She started to hear herself again. And one day she realized, this loneliness isn't punishing me. It's teaching me how to be with myself. That is the gift buried deep in loneliness. It teaches you self-connection. It teaches you resilience. It teaches you that you can sit with your own heart and not fall apart. It shows you that you are capable of surviving nights that once felt impossible. And eventually, you even learn to find comfort in your own company. There's a powerful daily life example in something as simple as eating dinner alone. At first, it feels awkward. You glance at your phone, try to distract yourself, feel the sting of not having someone to share the moment with. But slowly, if you let it, eating alone becomes peaceful. You savor your food, you listen to your own thoughts, you notice the details around you. What once felt like emptiness begins to feel like presence. That's loneliness transforming into solitude, an empowered state where being alone is not a punishment, but a gift. Loneliness also teaches empathy. When you've sat with that aching void, you learn to understand others in a way you never did before. You notice the person sitting quietly at a cafe, or the colleague who always goes home to an empty apartment. You feel their humanity because you've felt your own. Loneliness cracks you open, and in that breaking, compassion flows in. But maybe the most important lesson loneliness teaches is this: you are whole on your own. For so long, you may have believed that your happiness depended on another person's presence, that your life was meaningful only when shared. Loneliness confronts that belief head on. It shows you that while connection is beautiful, it is not the source of your worth. You carry that worth inside you always. And once you learn that, no one can take it away. Imagine a seed buried deep underground. At first, it looks like nothing is happening. It is surrounded by darkness and silence. But in that stillness, roots are forming. Strength is building. Growth is beginning. Loneliness works the same way. On the surface, it looks like emptiness, but underneath, it is preparing you for rebirth. It is shaping you into someone stronger, more grounded, more alive. Yes, loneliness hurts. It will make you cry. It will make you ache. It will make you long for what you've lost. But if you allow it, loneliness will also make you grow. It will teach you to enjoy your own laughter when no one else is around. It will teach you to dance in your living room without needing an audience. It will teach you to trust that your life has value, even in the quietest of moments. And perhaps the greatest irony of all is that once you learn these lessons, once you embrace the teacher that loneliness is, you become more open to love than ever before. Because now, you no longer seek someone to fill your emptiness. You seek someone to share your fullness. You don't cling to avoid loneliness. You choose love freely, knowing you can stand on your own. So when a woman realizes that loneliness is a teacher, she no longer fears it. She honors it. She sees it not as the enemy, but as the guide that led her back to herself. And that lesson, as painful as it is, becomes the foundation for everything she will build in the future. Because in the end, loneliness doesn't just teach you how to be alone, it teaches you how to be whole. There is a difference between love and attention, but in the rush of emotions, many of us blur that line without realizing it. Love is steady, it is consistent, it is rooted in care, respect, and commitment. Attention, on the other hand, can be fleeting, unpredictable, and shallow. It can show up in a text message at midnight, in a compliment said casually, or in a quick smile that makes the heart skip. And for a woman who is giving her whole heart, it is all too easy to mistake those crumbs of attention for the feast of real love. At first, the attention feels intoxicating. Every message that lights up the phone feels like proof. Every compliment feels like validation. Every "I miss you" feels like devotion. But slowly, quietly, there's a gap between what she feels and what she's receiving. Attention comes in waves, sometimes overflowing, sometimes disappearing without explanation. And yet, she convinces herself that this must be love because she doesn't want to face the truth that what she's receiving might not be enough. Think of it like being hungry and sitting at a table where someone tosses you crumbs. If you've been starving long enough, even the smallest piece feels like a gift. You convince yourself it's a meal, but in reality, your body is craving nourishment, not scraps. That is the pain of mistaking attention for love, accepting less than you deserve because you've been taught that something is better than nothing. A daily life example makes this so clear. Imagine a woman who waits all day for his messages. When he doesn't call, she feels empty, restless. But when his name flashes on the screen at night with just a simple, "Hey," her whole world lights up again. She feels chosen. She feels wanted. But if she steps back, she sees the pattern. He only reaches out when it suits him. He disappears for days, but she waits faithfully. She confuses those sporadic bursts of attention with love, when in truth, love would never leave her questioning her worth. Love would not make her wait in uncertainty. The hardest part of this realization is admitting that what she thought was love was really just someone's convenience. It hurts because it forces her to see how deeply she wanted to be chosen, how much she settled for less just to feel important. And yet, it is also liberating. Because once she names it for what it is, attention, not love, she begins to understand what she truly deserves. Here's the truth. Love is not found in random words typed late at night. Love is not found in someone's occasional praise when they want something from you. Love is not found in inconsistency. Love is action. Love is presence. Love is when someone shows up, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. Love is commitment, not convenience. I remember hearing about a woman who said, "I thought he loved me because he always told me I was beautiful. But then I realized he never asked how I was doing when I cried, never stayed when I needed him most. He gave me attention when it was fun, but not love when it was hard." That realization was painful, but it set her free, because once she stopped settling for attention, she started holding out for love. And maybe that's the hidden gift in this heartbreak. Mistaking attention for love teaches a woman to raise her standards. It teaches her that she is worthy of someone who doesn't just notice her in the spotlight, but cherishes her in the shadows. Someone who doesn't just show up when it's convenient, but stays when it's inconvenient. Someone who doesn't just compliment her beauty, but values her soul. It also teaches her something even more powerful, that she doesn't need anyone else's attention to validate her existence. She can give herself what she was begging for all along: consistency, compassion, care. She can fill her own cup, so she never again mistakes a drop from someone else as an ocean. The transformation begins when she stops waiting for his text to feel alive, when she stops dressing for his approval and starts dressing for her joy, when she stops measuring her worth by how much attention she gets and starts defining it by how much love she gives herself. That shift is profound. That shift is freedom. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this: once she no longer mistakes attention for love, she becomes immune to the games people play. She no longer chases crumbs because she knows she deserves a feast. She no longer waits by the phone because she knows her life is too precious to waste on someone's convenience. She no longer confuses flattery with devotion because she knows the difference now. Yes, the realization hurts. It feels like betrayal. It feels like loss. But it is also clarity. It is the moment when the fog lifts and she finally sees the truth: attention is cheap, but love is priceless. And once she sees that, she vows never again to trade her heart for something so small. So when she whispers to herself, "I mistook attention for love," but never again, she is not just mourning the past. She is declaring her future. She is stepping into a new chapter where she knows exactly what she deserves, and she will never settle for less. And that realization, as painful as it may be, becomes the turning point of her strength, her healing, and her rebirth. Love doesn't simply vanish when someone walks out of your life. It doesn't dissolve overnight, no matter how much you wish it would. When you have given your heart, your time, your laughter, your secrets, your prayers, those pieces of you don't just disappear into the air. They linger. They echo in the quiet moments, in the songs that once made you both smile, in the restaurants where you used to sit together. Love, as painful as it is, doesn't die when the person leaves. But here is the powerful truth: it transforms. It changes shape, it shifts direction, it grows into something you never expected. At first, this realization feels cruel. A woman might find herself weeks, months, even years later still thinking of the one who left. She wonders, why do I still feel this way? Why hasn't my love disappeared? She tries to bury it, to deny it, to numb it with distractions. But love is stubborn. It doesn't respond to force. The reason is simple. Real love, the kind that comes from deep within the soul, isn't designed to vanish. It's designed to evolve. Think of love like energy. Science tells us energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. The same is true for love. The affection you once poured into him, the loyalty you once gave freely, the compassion you once carried, it doesn't vanish into nothing. It transforms into new strength, new wisdom, new creations. It transforms into love for yourself, for your passions, for the world around you. Here's a daily life example. Imagine a woman who once spent her mornings making coffee for her partner, slipping little notes into his lunch, sending him texts throughout the day just to remind him he mattered. When he left, she felt the ache of those habits. The empty space where her love used to go felt unbearable. But slowly, she began to redirect it. She made coffee for herself with the same care, wrote notes of encouragement in her own journal, and started texting friends just to spread kindness. What was once her love for him transformed into a deeper love for her own life and for the people who truly valued her. It's easy to believe that when someone leaves, they take all the love with them. But the truth is they don't. They only take their presence. The love you carried is still yours, still alive inside you, waiting to be redirected. Some of it transforms into lessons, teaching you patience, resilience, and boundaries. Some of it transforms into art, written in poems, painted on canvases, sung through songs. Some of it transforms into empathy, allowing you to understand others' pain in ways you never could before. Love does not disappear. It finds a new purpose. I remember hearing about a woman who, after a devastating breakup, began volunteering at a children's shelter. She said, "I had so much love and nowhere to put it." So she started giving it to children who needed it most. What she thought was wasted love became healing love. What she thought was brokenness became compassion. That is the miracle of transformation. This is not to say that the process is painless. When love begins to transform, it often passes through grief. You may find yourself crying over memories, clutching old photographs, or feeling your chest ache at the sound of their name. That's normal. That's part of the transformation. Grief is the bridge between what was and what will be. The tears you shed are the water that carries love into its new form. Eventually, the memories that once cut you open soften. The song that once made you cry becomes a reminder of how deeply you were capable of feeling. The places you once avoided become neutral, even comforting. That is transformation at work. Love shifts from a sharp wound into a scar, something that once hurt, but now reminds you of your strength. And here's the most powerful part: when love transforms, it often returns to its truest home, you. You begin to realize that all the tenderness you once poured into someone else is tenderness you can pour into yourself. You don't need someone else to remind you that you matter, that you're worthy, that you're beautiful. You can remind yourself. You can become the recipient of the love you once gave so freely. Transformation also means love becomes more expansive. When you stop clinging to the idea that love must only exist in a romantic relationship, you begin to see it everywhere. In the way your dog runs to greet you at the door, in the way a stranger holds it open for you at the coffee shop, in the way the sun warms your face on a cool morning. You realize love is not confined to one person. It's all around you in countless forms, if only you are open to seeing it. So when a woman realizes that love doesn't disappear, it transforms. She no longer feels cursed by her feelings. She no longer sees her lingering love as weakness. Instead, she sees it as power. She understands that her capacity to love deeply is not a burden, but a gift. And if that love can survive heartbreak, it can certainly survive long enough to be reborn into something even more beautiful. Yes, someone may have left. Yes, the story you wrote in your heart may not have unfolded as you imagined, but the love you gave, the love you felt, the love you still carry, that doesn't vanish. It shifts, it grows, it becomes something new. And in that transformation, you discover not just healing, but hope. Because love is never wasted. Not a single smile, not a single hug, not a single sacrifice. All of it lives on, reshaped into strength, into wisdom, into compassion. And that truth, that love never disappears, only transforms, is what makes the human heart so breathtakingly resilient. When love ends, when someone you trusted walks away, it feels like your world collapses. The silence becomes heavier than the loudest storm, and every heartbeat feels like a reminder of what's missing. But the truth, the life-altering truth, is that endings are not meant to destroy us. Endings are meant to shape us. They break us, yes, but only to rebuild us into something stronger, braver, and more alive than before. Every scar, every tear, every sleepless night becomes the evidence of survival. And survival is never small. It is monumental. Because surviving heartbreak isn't just about living through it. It's about rising with a new story in your chest. People often believe that strength is measured by how much you can endure without breaking. But I tell you this, strength is not in pretending you are unshaken. True strength is in falling to your knees, crying your soul out, feeling every ounce of pain, and then whispering to yourself, "I will get up again." That whisper, that fragile promise you make to yourself in your darkest hour, is the seed of your rebirth. And one day, that seed grows into a voice that roars, "Nothing can break me anymore." Remember, when someone leaves, they take only their role in your story, not your story itself. You are still the author. You still hold the pen. And no one, no betrayal, no heartbreak, no abandonment, has the power to erase the chapters you have yet to write. Life doesn't end when someone walks away, it begins again. Like a sunrise after the longest night, like spring pushing through the coldest winter, life begins anew in the very moment you believe you have nothing left. So if you are listening to this and your heart feels shattered, know this: broken hearts are the birthplace of warriors. Broken hearts produce women who rise, who walk taller, who speak louder, who no longer apologize for their existence. Do not curse the pain. It is the sculptor of your strength. Do not despise the loneliness. It is the classroom where you learn your worth. And do not fear the ending. It is the door to your becoming. I want you to remember some of the most powerful truths humanity has carried through time. Winston Churchill once said, "If you're going through hell, keep going." Nelson Mandela reminded us, "Do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell and got back up again." And Maya Angelou, with the wisdom of a soul who endured, said, "Still, I rise." These are not just words, they are the anthem of every broken heart that refused to stay broken. And now they must become your anthem, because your story is not finished. The person who left may have walked out of your life, but they did not take your courage, your fire, or your ability to rise again. Those belong only to you. The greatest revenge against heartbreak is not bitterness, not anger, not proving them wrong. The greatest revenge is becoming everything they thought you could never be. The greatest revenge is smiling again, thriving again, and living a life so radiant that no one's absence can dim it. So stand tall in your pain. Wear your scars like jewels, because they prove you survived. Walk boldly into the future, not as someone who was left behind, but as someone who was set free. Free to find yourself, free to build again, free to love again, first yourself, and then the world around you. Yes, endings hurt. Yes, they shatter illusions. Yes, they break your heart. But heartbreak is not the period at the end of your story. It is a comma, a pause before the most powerful chapter of your life begins. And when you rise, you will not just be the woman you once were. You will be reborn as the woman you were always meant to be: unshakable, undeniable, unstoppable. So let this be your declaration: I am not defined by who left me. I am defined by who I choose to become. Let it be your fire. I may have been broken, but I am not destroyed. Let it be your anthem. The world tried to silence me, but still I rise. Because at the end of the day, no departure, no heartbreak, no betrayal has the power to erase the truth of who you are. You are worthy, you are strong, you are enough, and the woman you are becoming, the one who has walked through pain and risen from it, will not just survive. She will soar. And when the world sees you shine again, when they see you smile in spite of it all, they will know one thing love may have left, but it never defeated you. Because you are not the ending, you are the beginning. When love ends, when someone you trusted walks away, it feels like your world collapses. The silence becomes heavier than the loudest storm, and every heartbeat feels like a reminder of what's missing. But the truth, the life-altering truth, is that endings are not meant to destroy us. Endings are meant to shape us. They break us, yes, but only to rebuild us into something stronger, braver, and more alive than before. Every scar, every tear, every sleepless night becomes the evidence of survival. And survival is never small, it is monumental. Because surviving heartbreak isn't just about living through it, it's about rising with a new story in your chest. People often believe that strength is measured by how much you can endure without breaking. But I tell you this, strength is not in pretending you are unshaken. True strength is in falling to your knees, crying your soul out, feeling every ounce of pain, and then whispering to yourself, "I will get up again." That whisper, that fragile promise you make to yourself in your darkest hour, is the seed of your rebirth. And one day, that seed grows into a voice that roars, "Nothing can break me anymore." Remember, when someone leaves, they take only their role in your story, not your story itself. You are still the author. You still hold the pen. And no one, no betrayal, no heartbreak, no abandonment, has the power to erase the chapters you have yet to write. Life doesn't end when someone walks away, it begins again. Like a sunrise after the longest night, like spring pushing through the coldest winter, life begins anew in the very moment you believe you have nothing left. So if you are listening to this and your heart feels shattered, know this: broken hearts are the birthplace of warriors. Broken hearts produce women who rise, who walk taller, who speak louder, who no longer apologize for their existence. Do not curse the pain. It is the sculptor of your strength. Do not despise the loneliness. It is the classroom where you learn your worth. And do not fear the ending. It is the door to your becoming. I want you to remember some of the most powerful truths humanity has carried through time. Winston Churchill once said, "If you're going through hell, keep going." Nelson Mandela reminded us, "Do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell and got back up again." And Maya Angelou, with the wisdom of a soul who endured, said, "Still, I rise." These are not just words. They are the anthem of every broken heart that refused to stay broken. And now they must become your anthem, because your story is not finished. The person who left may have walked out of your life, but they did not take your courage, your fire, or your ability to rise again. Those belong only to you. The greatest revenge against heartbreak is not bitterness, not anger, not proving them wrong. The greatest revenge is becoming everything they thought you could never be. The greatest revenge is smiling again, thriving again, and living a life so radiant that no one's absence can dim it. So stand tall in your pain. Wear your scars like jewels, because they prove you survived. Walk boldly into the future, not as someone who was left behind, but as someone who was set free. Free to find yourself, free to build again, free to love again, first yourself, and then the world around you. Yes, endings hurt. Yes, they shatter illusions. Yes, they break your heart. But heartbreak is not the period at the end of your story. It is a comma, a pause before the most powerful chapter of your life begins. And when you rise, you will rise. You will not just be the woman you once were. You will be reborn as the woman you were always meant to be, unshakable, undeniable, unstoppable. So let this be your declaration. I am not defined by who left me. I am defined by who I choose to become. Let it be your fire. I may have been broken, but I am not destroyed. Let it be your anthem. The world tried to silence me, but still I rise. Because at the end of the day, no departure, no heartbreak, no betrayal has the power to erase the truth of who you are. You are worthy. You are strong. You are enough. And the woman you are becoming, the one who has walked through pain and risen from it, will not just survive. She will soar. And when the world sees you shine again, when they see you smile in spite of it all, they will know one thing love may have left, but it never defeated you. Because you are not the ending, you are the beginning.